Everyone, District 63, are you ready for some pain-free attitude adjustments? This morning's presenter has been entertaining audiences with his presentations and magic for over 35 years. In that time, he has discovered and proved that our attitudes and beliefs have a direct correlation with the quality of our personal and professional lives. In this session, based on Stephen's book that was mentioned earlier, thank you, Dory, The Art of Being Awesome, available at Amazon. I'll go ahead and push it as well. Proven techniques to add to your attitude palette. You will discover proven techniques that will enable you to take control of your mood and attitude in any situation or circumstance. Define life-changing words that will empower you and those around you. Build strong relationships with small but powerful attitude adjustments. Do simple and fun activities to significantly increase your energy. Take success literature to the next level and unleash your power of gratitude. Now, are you ready for some pain-free attitude adjustments? If you are, then please help me welcome past district governor, past region advisor, distinguished Toastmaster, and my friend, Stephen Shaner, the attitude chiropractor.
Hey, Stephen Shaner. Thank you, John, so much. And good morning, District 63. It's great to be with you again. I was reflecting this morning and trying to remember the last time I've been able to spend some time with you. And I believe it was last June, the last episode of Mentor Mondays. So it is wonderful to be back with you again. We've had a great time with this concept of pain-free attitude adjustments. Good friend of mine in northern Minnesota sent me a message on LinkedIn not long ago. The message simply said, "Oh, my aching attitude." And we have moments like that, don't we? Where perhaps our attitude isn't quite what it should be, or we have moments where, boy, somebody's pushing our buttons and we go down a negative road. Think about a time when you've met someone who is negative all the time. What was that like? Think about a time when you've met someone who was positive all the time. No matter what was going on around them, they were energetic and positive. And what was that experience like? For years, I wanted to be one of those positive people. I worked on it, I read. It still remained, as long as things were going my way, I could be positive. But if things were not going my way, I could tend to be on the negative side. And I think all of us experienced that at times. Today, you will learn some techniques that will help you be positive no matter what is going on around you. You'll learn some ways to use your vocabulary to keep yourself positive. We'll talk about how to add more energy into your life, how we can use success literature, and you'll learn the power of gratitude. As I said, I spent many years kind of studying this concept of attitude. I am a people watcher, and I watch people a lot, and I watch how the things they do, the words they use, affect them. And more importantly, how those actions affect the people around them. Years ago, I had a boss who took credit for everything that I did. And he wasn't shy about it. We'd be sitting in a meeting, and he would take credit for something that I did. One day, he spent half a day over there typing away on his computer. He printed out a piece of paper and he brought it over and he handed it to me, and it was his resume that he had just updated. And I read through this resume and I thought, I could put my name at the top of this and it would fit. How would you feel in that situation? I hear people say they would be angry, frustrated, and I experienced all of those emotions. I took a few days and I went out into the wilderness. I took food, some water, and I took 3 books. I took Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I took Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. I took my scriptures, and then I had my journal as well. So I guess that's 4 books. As I was reading Stephen Covey, he was teaching me that If I'm having a bad day, it's because I decided to. Not what I wanted to hear. Reading Tony Robbins, frustration is a good thing. Also, not what I wanted to hear. Then reading my scriptures, I reconnected with this concept of being of service. I continued to read, write in my journal, read, write in my journal. And I had one of the greatest breakthroughs in my life. And that was this. So what? So what that he is taking credit for the things that I do? Is it my job to make him look good? I went back to work. I decided not to leave that job. And I changed my attitude. It was my attitude that was the problem. Stephen Covey has a great quote. If you think the problem is out there, that very thought is the problem. When I changed my attitude, my work life changed. And I've carried that paradigm with me in every single project, situation, job I've ever had. My bosses always knew from that point, my job is to make you look good. Was I always successful? No, but they always knew that was the goal. That was huge. That was life-changing for me. We sometimes get into this idea that I'll be better, I'll have a better attitude, I'll be happy when. And the whens are numerous. When it's a sunny day, when it's a Friday, when my boss stops doing this, when my wife does this, when my husband stops doing this, when the government does, we have all these, when these things happen, then I'll have a good attitude. Is it possible that those people won't show up? That those whens might not happen? That's a very huge possibility. And I've seen it happen over and over again in my life. But I decided I was going to be in control of my attitude, not let other circumstances and people control that. That was another life-changing moment for me. One of the things we can do to get this positivity whenever we want it is take a look at the questions that we're asking. If we ask different questions, we'll get different answers. I managed an office of computer programmers up in Duluth, Minnesota. The corporate headquarters was down in Minneapolis, about 160 miles away. And that's where my boss was, 160 miles away. There was a senior director that our team worked with. And whenever we would make a mistake, do something wrong, he would immediately send an email to my boss. And that was a button for me. I would get so angry, so frustrated. And the question I always asked was, why is he going to my boss? Why is he going to my boss? Why is he not coming to me? And I would be frustrated by that. Guess who I took that out on? My boss. Finally, one day, we had done something. This senior director sent an email to my boss. Look what they did this time. Well, my boss, finally deciding to get out of the middle of all this, forwarded that email to me, and he typed Stephen ? Guess what? My button got pushed. Why is he going to my boss? I took a deep breath. I sat back. So, okay, let's ask some different questions here. Why am I really upset about this? I said, am I upset that my boss knows that we made a mistake? No, I would have told him anyway. Am I upset that we even made the mistake? No, that isn't it, because my team is very good at fixing those mistakes and making sure they don't happen again. So that was not it. As I thought about it some more, I came back to the original question, why does he go to my boss? And I changed it slightly. And I asked, why would he go to my boss? And I immediately got a different answer. And the answer was, they've known each other for years. They have trust. They have a relationship. It makes sense that he would go to my boss. Okay, I'm back in control again. I immediately replied to the email. Here's what happened. Here's what we're doing to fix it and to prevent it from happening again. And then I told this senior director, in the future, if If you encounter something like this, please let me know. Maybe he didn't even know he could come to me with these issues. I then scheduled a one-on-one with this person so that we could start developing that relationship and building that trust. Asking a different question will get us different answers. And that is huge. And that's one way, if we find ourselves in a bad mood, what question are you asking at that point? Usually something, why did he do this? Why does he do this? Why did she do this? What did you do? Why can't this happen? Change the question and you'll get a different answer. And you can move towards a positive result that way. We, as I said, wait for other things to happen sometimes. But our attitude is completely within our control. Stephen Covey was right. If I'm having a bad day or a bad moment, it's because I decided to. Not those outside forces. It's all on me. Think about sometimes when your buttons are pushed repeatedly. Usually we get that stimulus and we react. Stimulus, react, stimulus, react. What are those stimuli in your life? And think about the questions that you are asking in those moments. Look for different questions. Be proactive. And we are proactive when we focus on the things that we can control. And what are the things we can control? Ourselves. So ask proactive types of questions. What can I do? What do I need to do? What do I need to change? Bring it back here. Attitude is a choice. That's the first paradigm that is mentioned in my book. It is our choice. Let's talk about vocabulary. As I mentioned, I watch people a lot, and I watch the words they use, how they're used, and how that affects them and those around them. So here's a question for you. How are you today? Think about your normal answer. It's an important question, and it's probably a question we hear more than any other in any given day. We hear some form of that question. How are you today? How's it going? What's up? What's new? It's an important question. How we answer is the even greater importance and can have a profound effect on not only us, but on those around us as well. What are the possibilities? Let's examine a few. Here are some that I've received. How are you today? They ignored me completely. Here's one of my favorites. Well, I'm alive. Don't you just want to jump into a conversation with that person? Not me. I'm going to go find that guy that ignored me a minute ago. The negative responses are becoming more and more and more commonplace. Not long ago, I was walking through the skywalk up in Duluth, and a person asked me, "How are you today?" And I replied, "Awesome, thank you." And I kid you not, this guy looked at me and he said, "That's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that." And I kind of smiled, and then he realized what he had said, and he apologized again. And he said, "I'm sorry. I'm so used to hearing negative responses, I automatically assumed that you said awful." That's sad. As you've heard, my response is awesome, thank you. And I say it with the passion that's behind that and the sincerity behind that. And when I use that response, guess how I feel? And how do you think it makes the people around me feel? Next, we have the TGIF crowd. Thank goodness it's Friday. Okay, raise your hands if you're a TGIF person. Come on. Yeah, I see some hands raised. I routinely ran into a young lady on the elevator. And the first time I encountered her, it was on a Monday. And I asked, how are you today? And she replied, it's Monday. And I looked at her and I smiled and I asked, why are you choosing to have a bad day just because it's a Monday? And the question kind of stunned her for a second. And then she looked at me and she said, I'm not. And then the door opened and she got off. Next time I encountered her was on a Wednesday. And I asked her, how are you today? She had a little more energy, a little more pep. She said, I'm doing okay. And I encountered her on a Monday and we had pretty much the same question, the same question and answer. How are you today? It's Monday. Then I encountered her once on a Friday. How are you today? I'm doing great. It's a great day. This went on for weeks. And every Monday I got the same response. Wednesday was pretty much the same and Friday was pretty much the same. I caught her again on a Monday and her response was, it's Monday. And I asked again, why are you choosing to have a bad day just because it's a Monday? And she looked at me and she says, why do you keep asking me that? I said, okay, let me ask you a question. I said, when you get up on Monday morning, what's the first thing you tell yourself? She says, I tell myself it's going to be a bad day. It's Monday. So I asked, when you get up on Friday, what's the first thing you say to yourself? It's Friday. It's going to be a great day. So I asked, what would happen if next Monday, when you got up, you said, today is going to be a great day? She turned around and walked off. Gradually, though, I noticed a change in her. Her Mondays weren't, it's Monday anymore. She was, it's a good day. She was improving. Was she a bad person? No. And I certainly didn't want to go in there and say, hey, your attitude sucks, change it. She probably, like I, in an early life, never realized that I could make that choice on my own. And she gradually learned that the way I did. I gradually learned that throughout my life as well. Since then, because of that concept I gave you about asking a different question and getting a different answer, I don't ask, how are you today anymore? I ask, are you awesome today? And the responses are so much different because it's unexpected. And sometimes people don't know how to reply to that. I asked Don Biddick, are you awesome today? And his reply, I'm awesome every day. Isn't that awesome? Thank you, Don, for that wonderful response. There was a young lady I used to talk to on ham radio all the time. She was a teenager. And every time I would ask her, how are you today? She would reply and you could hear the smile on her face. And she would say, I'm dandy. And I just love those types of responses. Change the question. Are you awesome today? And you'll get different answers. And that is the name of my podcast, Are You Awesome Today? And we have fun discussions based on that concept. Ask a different question. You'll get a different answer. Years ago, I was at a Toastmasters conference. It was a district conference, Friday night dinner. And I'm sitting at the dinner table waiting for dinner. I was here, my wife was next to me. One of my old bosses was next to her. I'll call him Bill because Dwayne didn't want me to use his real name. And then there were some other Toastmasters. And I, at one point, leaned over to Dwayne Bill and I asked, are you going to be an area governor next year? And his reply and his normal sense of humor style was, why would I want to do that? I replied, it's the best job in the district. You get to visit clubs. You get to manage and organize speech contests. You get to do training. You get to meet lots of people. You get lots of opportunity to speak. At that point, a lady across the table said, well, one of the ladies in my club isn't an area governor and she hates it. And I replied, really, why? She said, well, she has to go visit clubs. She has to organize speech contests. She has to give speeches. She has to do training. What was the difference? I used get to. She used has to. How do you feel when you have to do something? Me too. How do you feel if you get to do something? It's a different experience, isn't it? When you catch yourself saying, I have to go do this, stop immediately and change it to, I get to do this. I remember it just came to me after work one day out in the lobby, a bunch of people were getting ready. They were going to go out and have some drinks and dinner afterwards. And a lady from the office next to ours, was there with her teenage daughter. And the group invited her to go out and have drinks and dinner. And the lady's reply was, well, I'd like to, but I have to take my daughter to soccer practice. And I looked at the daughter. Probably not the best choice of words. No, you don't have to take your daughter to soccer practice. You get to. It's a great opportunity. When we use have to, hold my calls. When you use have to, you get one experience. When you use get to, you get a completely different experience. We'll wait for the phone to finish. Sorry about that.
All right, Stephen, I'll hang up. My bad.
Okay. Change your have tos to get tos. That is a great way to build more positivity in your life. Another word that I don't like is the word can't. In fact, my employees, if they ever came into my office and used the word can't, I would look at them and say, okay, you use the C word, out you go. Amazing thing happened. Every single time that happened, within a minute, they were back with words that went like this. Well, we could if we tried it this way. When you eliminate the word can't, the possibilities will present themselves. Eliminate the word can't. If you find yourself in a negative mood, look at the words you're using. If you say, oh, this is devastating, guess what you're going to experience? Devastation, whatever that means to you. And it means something different to me than it does to each of you. But if you use that word, that's what you'll experience. Oh, this is a nightmare. Guess what? I'm going to experience a nightmare. And I used to use those words, but now when I find myself in a situation that isn't really what I'm expecting, I'll use, okay, this is interesting. Because if I say it's interesting, it automatically prompts me to look into this a little deeper, do some research, find out what's going on. Another one I like to use sometimes if something negative is going on around me is I'll say, okay, this is entertaining, because that immediately brings a smile to my face. And when I'm smiling, guess what? Whatever this situation is, I can look at it with a different attitude and move forward. Now I'm starting to move forward when those things happen. I'll just, no matter how bad it is, if I say, oh, this is awesome. And granted, I don't use that very often, but by using empowering and positive words, I'm going to get different results. I'm going to act differently. So vocabulary is huge. Think about the words that you use on a regular basis and how they affect you. But more importantly, how they affect those people that are so dear to you, that are around you, your family, especially your family, your coworkers, your Toastmasters family. Look at those words. Look for something that is more empowering for you. Energy. Show of hands, how many of you would like to have more energy in your life? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of hands. Here's the key. If you want more energy, give more energy. And what I mean by that is to move. Get up and move around. I stand a lot, and that gives me energy. In church, we have sometimes meetings that go an hour. I stand for the whole meeting. When I was working full time, I had a sit-stand station. I could raise that whole laptop and monitor everything up, and I could stand. And I would do that for 1, 2, sometimes 3 hours. That gives me energy. Think about those of you that like to exercise. Jason, I know you like to exercise, and I can just about guarantee that if I ask you how you feel after an exercise session, you're going to say awesome. Yeah, you might be tired, worn out from it, but you're going to feel awesome. Movement is key. If you're in a work environment, you're in a cube, play a little music, have a little concert in your cube, sell tickets, invite your coworkers over, have some fun, get up, move around, build some energy within yourself. So what I'd like to do now is have everybody stand. Let's stand up. John, are you ready to go? All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to have John play a little music here. I want everybody, now I'm not a dancer, but I'll be tapping my foot and I'll be moving a little bit. Just, you don't have to do anything real, just move with the music. Go ahead and take it away, John.
Buddy, if you've ever wondered what Toastmasters has ever done for me, you'll see it on display throughout the district. WDTM at District 63. Working through the projects in my pathway, been speaking every single chance I can. Confidence is showing in my leadership, accomplishments by saying yes I can. I'm at WDTM at District 63.
All right. Thank you, John. How do you feel? Even for just the less than 2 minutes that song lasted, do you have some energy now? You feel more awake? Feeling it good? All right. Movement is key. Whatever movement is for you, like I said, even if you just stand up and tap your toe for a few minutes, that's going to give you some energy. I get up every morning and I do a set of exercises called the 5 Tibetans, and I do Tai Chi. That gets me through the day. But every now and then, I'm going to put the earbuds on and I'm going to get some music going to keep my energy level up. Move around. Don't sit all day. Let's talk about gratitude. Think about one thing that you're most grateful for right now. For me, family. Okay. All of you would list something different, probably as your top thing that you're grateful for. Sometimes it's health, sometimes maybe it's your job, your home, your pet, whatever it is. Sometimes it's a thing. But I think honestly, if you answer that question based on what is truly the most important thing to you that you're grateful for, it probably has to do with a relationship that you have with someone else. If you find yourself in a negative mood, stop, take a breath, and ask that question. What am I grateful for in my life right now? That will start you back down the road to being positive. That will start you back towards having some energy. How many of you had something you're grateful for that was a relationship with someone? Yeah, I see quite a few hands. Okay. Those are the things we truly should be grateful for. We can always find something to be grateful for. And I know all of us have challenges. I do. Okay. Every single one of you have challenges. Maybe some of you have more than one challenge. But I promise you this, if you approach that challenge with a positive attitude, it will open up possibilities for you. Okay, it will allow you to tackle that challenge with the energy and the ideas and the possibilities that you need. So be grateful. Be grateful in everything. In my book, I mentioned at the very least, think about this. Every day above ground is a great day. And somebody actually made that comment in the chat last night during our conference. Be grateful. Success literature. For me, I was not much of a reader growing up. When I was in Daytona Beach, I had a magician friend. His name was Samuel Patrick Smith. Sammy was a great magician. We had a lot of fun together. And he did a couple of, so this was back in the 80s, so he did cassette programs on how to build a magic business. He had 2 of them, part 1 and part 2, 2 cassettes each. And as I listened to Sammy on those tapes, he would reference books that I'd never even heard of before, things like Think and Grow Rich, The Richest Man in Babylon. And as he went through these tapes, he would mention these books. I would go buy them, or I would spend time at the library, and I was just fascinated with these books. I couldn't get enough of it. Then I did the second set of tapes, and he had even more books that he recommended. I became an avid reader at that point. And I was looking at my Kindle this morning, and it tracks my reading. So far this year, I've finished 15 books. So I'm an avid reader. There's so much information out there. This was back before internet. So that was really the only option I had was books. Then the cassette tapes came into being. So when I was driving around, I had those cassette programs. I was listening to those, absorbing as much as I can. Now, what do we have available to us? We've got YouTube videos. We have TED Talks. I think it was 3 years ago now, I set a goal that I was going to listen to a TED Talk every day for a year, 365 straight days of TED Talks. And I had a rule. I would go in and I would start. Sometimes I was in the mood for something humorous, sometimes something inspirational. But the rule was once I started a TED Talk, I finished it. Even if I maybe didn't agree with or wasn't being entertained or whatever, I finished what I started. And I accomplished that goal, 365 TED Talks in a year. We have TED Talks available. We have Toastmasters. Is that a good positive environment for us to build positivity and be around positive people that inspire us and persuade us and entertain us and inform us? This is a great organization to be in to maintain positivity in your life. And I'm not saying you have to read as much as I do, but even 10 minutes a day, reading something that's positive or watching a video, or maybe writing in your journal or creating your own video or doing your own podcast or writing your own book. Just do something every day. The success literature that is out there is enormous, and new books coming out every single day. And as a Kindle reader, every day I get 2 or 3 emails in my inbox with recommendations for books based on the type of books I read. It's unlimited. Take some time to do those things. You are worth it. Are you interacting with positive people as much as possible? There have been times when I've had some negative type people in my life, and I can tell you that I was a lot happier when I got those people out of my life. So think about those relationships that you have and look for those areas that bring negativity in your life. What are you watching on TV? What music are you listening to? Make changes as necessary, but you decide what's right for you. Now, can someone truly be positive all the time? Decided to put that theory to test one day. I was out running errands at lunchtime. As I was heading back to the office, I was rear-ended pretty substantially. Now, think about that situation. What are the normal emotions that you're probably going to feel? Frustration, anger, lots of negative emotions. But I sat back for a minute and said, okay, I'm okay here. How can I make this a positive experience for everybody involved? Not something you normally ask, but there's another one of those questions. And I asked that question. How can I make this a positive experience? Can I do that in this situation? I get out of my van, I walk to the back, and the car that hit me had 2 young ladies. The driver was, I think, 18 and her sister was 16. And she rolled down her window and I asked, are you guys okay? And they both said, yeah, we're okay. So I tried to open the door, but their front end was smashed in enough that their doors were on. But I finally pried one door open and got them out. And the girl said, I am so sorry. She says, I got distracted. I didn't mean to hit, and she was about ready to break down. And I looked at her and I said, look, I said, I know you didn't get out of bed this morning and say, hey, I'm going to go hit some old man on the road today. And she was shocked by that, but then she kind of smiled. Then her sister smiled. I called 911, told them traffic accident location, no injuries. They said, okay, we'll send a squad car over. So we were talking, and it was a very positive conversation. As the police car pulled up, this lady police officer got out. And at this point, I should probably describe what I was wearing. Now, I was wearing a bright orange Hawaiian shirt, tan pants, and I had on orange Crocs. You know, orange Crocs. So this lady police officer walks up and she asked what happened. And the girl said, I got distracted and I hit him. The police officer turned, looked at me, and she said, dressed the way you are, you deserve to get hit. Now, if we'd have been in an atmosphere where I was angry and they weren't looking at it, would the police officer have said something like that? I'd say probably not. But because the police officer walked into an atmosphere that was positive and energetic, she knew she could say something like that. So one decision, how can I make this a positive experience for everybody? Affected 4 people. We all have the power to do that with our words and with our attitude. I went to a leadership symposium one time with my boss. We walked in, we were looking for a place to sit, and this young lady walked up in front of me. And she looked up at me, and with tears in her eyes, she grabbed a hold of me and gave me a hug. My boss is looking at me going, I'm looking back at him with this lady in my arms. And finally she calmed down, she stepped back, and she asked me, she says, do you remember me? And I said, no, I'm sorry, I don't. She says, you spoke at our government programs division last year. She said, I was the very pregnant lady in the room. I said, okay, yeah, now I remember you. She said, I had a very difficult pregnancy. Your words helped me through that. That is the power of words. All of us, every single one of you has that power. You have your story. And not only do people need to hear it, they want to hear it. Get out there, tell your story, write your books, do your podcasts, do your YouTube videos, but get your positive message out. The world needs it, especially right now. Before I close, my book, The Art of Being Awesome. This book is endorsed by Brian Tracy. Most of you know who he is. It's also endorsed by Dilip Evasekara, who was the Toastmasters International President. I believe that was in 2004, 2005. It's available on Amazon, both Kindle and paperback. Now, those of you that are Kindle minded, I have made my Kindle version free today. So if you have a Kindle, you can go and get that for free. If you don't have a Kindle, download the free Kindle reader on your phone or your tablet, your PC, whatever, go out and get that book today. It is free, Kindle version only. So take advantage of that. You are an incredible group of people. You make a difference every day. What you do matters. How you do it matters even more. Do it with an attitude that you choose. Do it with a vocabulary that empowers you, inspires you, and those around you. Do it with a lot of energy, and do it from a place of being grateful. And most importantly, do it wearing orange Crocs. District 63 Toastmasters, go forth and do great things. John, back to you.
Thank you so
Nice.
much, Stephen. Yes, awesome.
I like that line, John, that he said, you decide what kind of day you will have. That's really
Mm.
powerful, Stephen. Like when you get out of the bed in the morning, you don't have to say that today's going to be bad because it's Monday or good because it's Friday, right, Steve? I mean, that's the thought behind that, isn't it?
Exactly. You can get up and decide what kind of day you're going to have. And it's amazing because when you do that, no matter what comes your way, you still have the decision that you've made. I'm going to make this a great day, or I'm going to make this an awesome day, and it sticks no matter what's going on.
Stephen, I'm going to put you on the spot. Are you able to do for us a little magic trick? Is that possible in the scenario that you're sitting in, or does it always require some kind of interaction?
You know what? If you'll give me 2 minutes to go get something, I would be happy to do that.
All right.
I'll be right back.
Okay. We'll put him on hold while we do that. There you go. So I took some notes. Did you take notes, Curtis? I know you're a note taker.
I did. I took a page and a half worth.
In much, oh, well, now you're bragging. Okay. I got a half a page.
Right big. I just write big. It's 17 words. I just write big.
Okay. Okay. I saw your whiteboard there for Nick. I'll tell you my takeaways. If I ever get alone on a weekend with food and water, I'm taking a book from Stephen Covey, Tony Robbins, my Bible, and a journal, and I'll take my WDTM journal as well, because it's full of good notes that I've got here, right? You know, I struggle with this one. He said, I also have a little situation at work to where my boss is not, how do I say this? It's just not a good situation, right? I'm struggling with my boss at work. But his comment there, my job at work is to make my boss look better.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time biting on that one. That one just, I'm struggling with that, but I'm going to struggle with it and push through it though. Okay. I need it. Maybe I needed that. Maybe his whole talk was just for me to hear that today. I don't know.
Well, that's pretty self-centered of you, but I understand where you're coming from.
Exactly. Well, I'm being honest here. All right, Stephen.
Right,
Okay, hey,
back.
who is the Zoom? Is Will the Zoom master now? Let's spotlight.
Yes, I am.
Yes, let's spotlight Stephen again so everybody can see him. If you can't see him, go up to the top right hand and click speaker instead of gallery, not galley. That's what you do when you're in trouble, right? Or on a ship. Okay, let's turn it back over to Mr. Shaner. Thanks, Stephen.
All right. Hey, everyone. Show of hands. How many of you have ever seen an invisible hand? Nobody? Well, this is an invisible hand. And I can say that because if I take something like this 50-cent piece, I don't know why my video is doing that, but if I take it and place it in there like that and give it a squeeze like that and a wave, you see it makes that 50-cent piece invisible. It's still there. It's just invisible. Let me do this. So if I rub the back of my hand and rub the front of my hand, you see it makes that 50-cent piece visible again.
What the what? It's
And it works
witchcraft.
with both hands because I can place it over here. See, and it makes it invisible over there too. But I can pull it out of my pocket now, you see, and that's so something a little simple.
That's impressive. That's really impressive. I like that. When you give talks, Steve, when you speak in front, I would assume you speak professionally. Do you work your magic tricks into it?
Sometimes I do a presentation called Magic with a Message. And when I do that presentation, I incorporate, a spiritual, motivational, inspirational, some type of message with the magic.
Hey, Stephen, if people wanted to say, hey, you know what, that resonated with me. And I know you're in the Cookeville area. And if people would like to say, hey, I'd like to have Stephen come out to speak at our whatever, right? What's the best way they get a hold of you, Stephen?
Well, I'm actually about an hour north of Cookeville. Best way to get a hold of me is go to my website, awesomeattitude.net. Again, that's awesomeattitude.net. And there's a contact link there. My email is listed and my phone number is listed.
Awesomeattitude.net. I hope somebody dropped that in the chat. If you're having some kind of issues with your audio today. You didn't quite hear all that. Awesomeattitude.net. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, any other questions, Curtis, before we slip off to an early break?
I'm good. I don't see anything in the chat. If you have a question for Stephen, we do have a couple of minutes. If you want to just virtually raise your hand down there, and if you click on reactions down on the lower right, you can see where it says raise hand, and that's how you raise hands. So if you have a question for Stephen, now is the time. And I'll ask you something, since I don't like silence. We talked about that over the past 2 days. Stephen, how important are you talked about getting away, going to the woods, taking some books and just getting away from that. How important is that, and how often do you do it?
It's extremely important for me just to kind of get away from the rat race for a while, where I can get out and not be distracted by all the things that distract us every single day, and I can focus on certain things. So writing in my journal, reading certain books, of course, my scriptures. Now I pretty much live in the woods, so it's a matter of going out the back door and crawling in the hammock, and that gives me my escape time. So that's probably more than it should be, but I do get that opportunity now to get out and be outside in nature. And it's a great place to go if you're really trying to focus and figure yourself out and figure out what you want to do and set goals and do those types of things.